Hi, folks. This is Don Meissner with the North Country Fishing Report. You know, it won't be long and we'll have open water. I know it's hard to believe as we suffer in the cold winter grasp that we're all in right now. But when the first elements of spring start to appear, that's bullhead time. And I don't talk about that very often. Bullhead dinners at fire departments were such a part of spring life here in the North Country for decades. And then some bullheads were found to have parasites inside their flesh, grubs as we call them. And it sort of tapered down the importance of these bullhead dinners. But families going out to fish for bullheads, that's a huge part of the rites of spring. And I was talking to my buddy Dave Swanson, and he was, again, always trying to come up with ideas that I can pass on because that's always been an important part of his life. And he said, I remember the time when I was young and I would get night crawlers and go out fishing bullheads. And one time really stuck in his mind. And it was way after he was adult and he was fishing with other people that were, I don't know, probably in his 30s or 40s. And they decided to go bullhead fishing at one part of Seneca Lake because they'd heard the bullheads were hitting over there. So they got some worms and they headed over that way. And when they got to the area, they heard that everybody was catching them. There was a whole bunch of anglers there. But he said, remarkably, most of them hadn't caught a fish. And then he saw one guy that was positioned where this stream came by this cemetery. And it had been a lot of rain before this, and it washed down a lot of soil into the water, and there was a current moving. And this guy was sitting there and catching one big bullhead after another. And they couldn't barge in on him, so they tried another spot nearby, and nothing. The next day they came back, and they came back early, hoping to get there before that famous bullhead fisherman got back in his spot. And they got to the spot where he was, and the water was all muddy around there, and it was moving. There was a strong current. And most of us, when we think of bullhead fishing, we think of getting our favorite spot along the St. Lawrence where the water comes into a bay, and we can all sit along an area, and we can enjoy stories and eat and just have fun. The family can all fish. But it isn't in a current area. But why was this current area so good? And this is what I wanted you to realize. Anytime this time of the year, when the water creates a current and it's washing down stuff from the shore, it becomes muddy. And these bullhead know that in that muddy water, that's where all stuff is stirred up and they can find food. And so they congregate there. And I think this is something that is really interesting to know. It isn't about how accurately something looks. In this case, it's just worms, and they're probably just smelling it. But these fish know where and how, just by instinct, how there's going to be food in those areas of moving water. And so the next time we go bullhead fishing, it might, and especially if you want to catch some bigger bullhead, it might be a good idea to try an area where any kind of stream is flowing in from a distance away, and it's going to contain a lot of stuff that's been washed in and being washed down into that area. And that area is sort of like a deposit area for all kinds of goodies that these bullheads could enjoy. So I very seldom pass along tips on bullhead fishing. I think most of us think we don't need tips. We just get to a spot, get our chair, sit down, relax, and wait for the rod to start dimpling. But maybe if we want to really take it a step further, we start looking for current areas and dirty water washing in to a bigger pond or lake. Until next time, folks, this is Don Meissner with the North Country Fishing Report.